been around the club for maybe 10 years now, and I don't recall that we've ever lost two longtime members in, like, what, a 6-week, 4-week span of time. And I would like to just take a moment, I don't have anything up here, but I would like to just take a moment to remember Bill, remember Kenny. You have a glass, raise a glass. Amen. And to Maria, thank you for being here. Your support and your care of Bill has been appreciated, I know, by all of us in the club. And Jeannie, for your beloved husband, he will be missed as well. Thank you so much for being here today. David mentioned really one of the things that has been a tremendous honor for our club this year, and that has been what has been done through Drive Away Cancer. And most of you know the story, how John hatched this and the incredible way that it has come together and the way that it has brought awareness to not only cancer, but also our club and the Austin Healey Association and the Austin Healey Mark. So, John, would you come up, say a few words about what this crazy ride has been?
Well, notoriety. I didn't run anybody over. It's interesting. This whole experience, I guess, started during California Healy Week, when Mike Newsom loaned me his car to take, because I hadn't been able to go to any events without a running Healy. And so he gave me a non-running Healy and the chance that I might make it run. And when Mike got sick right after Healy Week is where the idea to go on this drive started. And so whenever you see this on television or you read about it in magazines or the newspaper, you're reading something that started with this club. And that's something extraordinarily special. When we drove across country, we had the names of club members on this car. When we won the Mil Milia last month, we had Kenny Derringer leading the way above that grill, and Bill Barnett right behind me yelling in my ear. So it's something that you all can take pride in. And the car is actually out front. And if you haven't signed the car, ordinarily we have people sign the names of people that we've lost to cancer or fighting cancer or survived cancer. But given the fact that this is so special to this club, I'd like to have all of you sign her and find some space on her, and remember anyone you want to. But I'd also like to take a moment. There are some people in this room that even though it was Mike's car, and certainly Mike Newsom was one of the important elements in getting this started, I have to be honest, number two in my mind was George Hubel. And I don't see you as much as I used to, George. I used to see you every Saturday morning. Cars and Coffee has been tough for me lately. It's tough to go to Cars and Coffee without a car. But, George, you were always in my thoughts when this happened. Maria, one day I will share with you an email that Bill sent me when I was driving across country, because if you saw it, you would not believe it was from Bill. It was extraordinarily generous. And I also want to thank, by the way, every single member of this club that participated and donated and helped us. You wouldn't believe this, but when we left to head cross country, we barely had enough money to make gasoline there and back without realizing we were going to have to buy 300 quarts of oil. And so without your help, we would not have made it. And we have 2 trophies that will go to British Car Specialist and Moss Motors. The first call we made was to David Knock, and I said, you probably don't remember me, but this is who I am, and I'd like to drive a non-running Healy across country and back next week. And he didn't laugh. I think he promptly called George McHarris to make sure I was, of semi-sound mind, but he didn't laugh. And when we needed things, when I was stuck in a Stuckey's parking lot and the carburetors were, blowing fuel all over it, he was at the hospital for the birth of his granddaughter, who's here, and he, from the hospital, walked me through a carburetor rebuild. We, went through a rear axle rebuild during his birthday dinner. Moss Motors has been incredibly generous by letting me go through their back with a shopping cart and pick stuff off. Because if any of you saw this car at Healy Week and laughed at it, for having barely made it to Ventura, we've just completed 10,000 miles with this car in 3 months. Alex, stand up. Steve Kingsbury. We decided to go over the course of 8 days. George sent an email out saying we needed help, and Alex and Steve showed up. That last weekend, they worked 18 hours a day, putting things back together, making things work. Steve put on the starter, which fell off in New Mexico. But we could not have done it without them. We have more stuff to give away to you all, but Bruce and Peter. Oh, there you are. So 2 days late, I motored into Monterey, California, and spewing oil and blowing smoke, and there were 30 to 40 people from the Healy Club and the Jaguar Club sitting on the sidewalk. 2 days late I was, and they were still there. Hopefully not standing out there for 2 days. Peter, I can't tell you how happy it was, how happy it made me to see you. Before we left, because this club was so instrumental in what we did, I stole or borrowed George McHarris's grill badge. And we put it on Grace, and we drove all the way across country with it. And then, if you'll notice, if any of you saw the footage of the Mil Milli on TV, this badge is in almost every shot. We just pulled it off and mounted it on a Healy green plaque, and I'd like to give it to the club, thanking you all for your support. Mike Scroggy, you have let me monopolize the newsletter for God knows how many issues. You have been incredibly supportive. You've been a good friend. You're a tremendous human being. Nobody believes how bad Grace was. This is her front cross member. That was what held the car apart, okay, from left frame to right frame. And Mike, I'd like you to have it.
It might keep my frame together.
That's right. So when we first had the idea to do this, the first person I confided in was George. And God bless him, George said, that sounds like a good idea. No one in their right mind would say this was a good idea. Twice in that week, I tried to drive the car around just to see how it would do, and twice it broke down. Once George had to use his AAA card, we had to get a flatbed and tow it to his house. The car just didn't go anywhere. And in that last week, after having gotten the parts and having spent all this time, George said, "You'll make it." Nobody else thought we were going to make it down the block. Maybe the good friends thought we'd make it out of the state. But every mile we drove really was because of George. And I was horrible to him during the trip. George would call in the middle of a torrential hailstorm, and I was crying, and it was hot, and I hadn't slept in days, and George would say, "The weather report looks good. Should be sunny." And, you know, if anybody was said to have pushed this along, it was George. And we, because Mike Newsom's not here to defend himself, bought the worst car in the world. Never buy anything on eBay sight unseen. In addition to the rust, which Mike Scroggy has, this was actually the headlight switch. Whatever heat was not coming from the car was coming out of this switch. It's non-Healy, of course. I don't know why it was there, but it was. So George, I'd like to give this to you for lighting the way.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. I can use this. Yeah.
So thank you all. After dinner, if you haven't already done so, I'd like to actually get everybody down there. I've asked Jeannie, even though I've corrected it, to actually sign Kenny's name again on the car. I'd like Maria to actually sign Bill's again on the car for them. And then I'd like all of you to sign, and then I'd like to take a picture next to her. Because, well, this isn't that magnanimous because I don't own it either. She does belong to all of you. She really does belong to all of you. And wherever she goes, whatever we do entirely because of all of you. So thank you so much. We can't. Well, yeah.
I know you got something else.
I know my mother-in-law said she has a recurring.